Hello again. We are Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, Max Barr of Southeastern 14 here to preview and predict outcomes of 3 SEC basketball games on Wednesday night. There are actually going to be 4 games played. We have already previewed Florida and Kentucky in a different video. So we will be talking about Alabama's trip to Georgia, Arkansas's visit to Columbia, Missouri, and Vanderbilt's trip to Auburn. Before we get into those, we remind you that this video is brought to you by BetOnline. It is playoff time. The road to Vegas has run through San Francisco and Baltimore and left us with the 49ers and the Chiefs. BetOnline is your number one source for playoff football odds, stats, trends, and lines, with everything from point spreads to hundreds of player performance props. Head to BetOnline today. Stay updated on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. Well, Wednesday night's SEC slate starts in Athens, Georgia. Alabama faces Georgia. You can catch that 5:30 Central on the SEC Network. We do not have lines as we do this, but we expect, based on computers, Alabama to be close to a 7-point favorite. Computers giving Alabama about a 72% chance to win. Alabama can score like nobody's business. It comes off a 109-point game, but hey, Georgia can too. Georgia put 98 on Florida in overtime. This is a sneaky good team. Alabama's coming off a big week, and Georgia, Max, just has this habit of being able to seemingly hang in there against anybody and everybody. That may mean some big deficits during the game, but this team always finds a way to come back and make it interesting at the end, it seems.
Yeah, and one of those reasons why they can always make it close is their free throw rate. These guys get to the line, especially Silas Demery, but all those guards, Thomason, Hill, Melendez coming off his career high. So Georgia has the highest free throw rate in the conference. And being at home, getting that home whistle, and having an Alabama front court that has been in foul trouble. We've seen Pringle and Wagi get in foul trouble almost consistently getting in foul trouble. And we've seen lately how important Grant Nelson's rim protection, his paint defense has been. If he was to get into foul trouble, you start to see the paths opening up for Georgia. So that I wanted to mention that first, because I do think that Georgia's going to really lean into the aggressiveness and trying to get those whistles at home. This arena is going to be rocking. That Mike White built something this year, and this arena is going to be going nuts. But looking at it from an Alabama perspective, this is a Georgia defense that, honestly, the numbers are saying they're not as good as I thought they were. I thought this was a defense that, from what I could see, was keeping everything in front. I think this Florida game and the Kentucky game, the last two, the 100 pieces that got dropped on them, kind of tanked the defensive numbers. But at home, the Georgia defense has not been all too bad. They held LSU to 66. Tennessee, they almost had them beat until Dalton Connect went crazy. They held Arkansas to 66. So at home, the defense hasn't been too bad. The thing is, though, no one's been able to stop this Alabama offense. Blake, you've had the best read on Alabama all year long. You've been all over them. You think they're breaking through here, or do you think Georgia's actually got something here at home?
Well, I mean, again, I think Alabama has been pretty consistent outside of the Tennessee game. And I think that's
gone to Tennessee and done.
Well, right. That's the point, right? It's
Yeah.
like I mean, if you just take that game out of the equation, and if you take everybody's Tennessee game out, it changes a little bit, except for maybe Mississippi State or something. But yeah, I mean, I think so. So that's how you look at it, and you just see what Alabama's been able to do scoring wise. Like I said, they just put up 109 points against LSU at home, coming off a big win against Auburn. A lot of momentum right now. They are, we've talked about Grant Nelson, more aggressive, and just what all the guards can do, and all the guards playing well. And so it's a big challenge here for Georgia when you look at kind of the setup here, given the fact that Georgia's just, you talk about like the last couple of road games. It's just been brutal having to play Kentucky, them just offensively doing what they did, then having to go to Florida, overtime game there. You wonder, is there maybe a little bit of a hangover to where Georgia was, probably shouldn't even been in the game and wound up taking it to overtime and then just come up short. And so that's a good question, I think, with that one. And yeah, so Georgia's just kind of they've been in every game, right? That's the thing with Georgia is they've been right there with the chance. It's just, did they have enough offensive firepower to be able to withstand some of the runs that Alabama is going to inevitably make in this game? And I know you can say, well, sure, because they just scored 96 and 98 against Kentucky and Florida, but those were kind of desperation spots, and points where the other team may have been a little more lax because they were playing as well as they were. And so, yeah, this is an interesting setup for this game, and I'm curious to kind of see who can control how this game is played, because I think one team definitely needs, and not that it's tempo wise, right, but it's just Georgia's going to have to win in a much different way than Alabama needs to win here, I think, based on the matchup.
Yeah, both these teams can really score from a lot of different places. I'm a little surprised that I look at adjusted offensive efficiency. Georgia's 84th nationally. I thought that number would be a lot higher. And we saw R.J. Melendez go for 35. We've seen Blue Kane take over portions of games. They've got a bunch of guys that can put the ball, Russell Chewa, in the basket. Maybe not go for 35, but score enough to add up to where you look at the end of the night and they got 90. But boy, if we want to play that game, I present to you the Alabama Crimson Tide, because any given night, Mark Sears could get 20 or more. Aaron Estrada could do it. Grant Nelson could do it. Ryland Griffin can do it. Latrell Wrightsell can do it. These guys have got scoring coming out their ears. Scoring on scoring. If it gets to that kind of matchup, I think you got to take Alabama, but it is on the road, and so don't be surprised to see Georgia do what it does, and that's make everything close.
Is that are you going with a
That's
pick
my
there?
pick.
That's
That's
your
my
pick?
pick.
Okay. So I do think that we're well, maybe not we, but I might be underestimating Georgia just a tad. I mean, if you look at that Tennessee game, they hit 14 threes. I'm not saying that they're going to hit 14 again, but there's something about Georgia playing at home and kind of playing into the crowd and shooting the lights out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested to see this matchup at the 4 between Jabri Abdur-Rahim, who's probably the most consistent scorer for Georgia, and that's going against the least consistent position that Alabama has. They kind of just run a mix of Stevenson, Pringle, Walters, Diabate, sometimes go small with Griffin at the 4. So I'll be interested to see how Oates kind of attacks Abdur-Rahim at the 4 there. This is a sneaky one. You know how I don't know the exact numbers, but there's that stat of ranked teams playing on the road against an unranked team, and how many wins that unranked team at home has been getting. So there's a lot of things that make me want to pick Georgia here, but I just have nightmares of Wrightsell, Sears, and Griffin making 25 threes on my head. So I'm going Alabama, but this is a very sneaky spot, and Georgia's really played up to the crowd at home. So I don't think it's going to be an easy one. I'm going Bama, though.
Alabama has scored 105 or more points in 3 of their last 5 games against Georgia. 108-59 last year in Tuscaloosa, 49-point win. Of course, now let's remember where the program was several years ago, but it's still a trend. Like, it's still an interesting number. 115-82 in Tuscaloosa in 2021, 105-102 in Athens in 2020. And yeah, Georgia won the game in Athens in 2022, and that's really been their only successful, matchup against Alabama since 2018. So Georgia has not had a lot of success against this Alabama team. I think when you add in the fact that, Georgia is just a team that I know Chris said he, thought they'd be higher offensively. I think you see most of Georgia's offense come in desperation. Like I said, when they're down, they were down 21 to Florida. They were down 28 to Kentucky or something, and just kind of a flurry of offense after that. But Georgia,
this man's about to do,
played really well against Tennessee, and if they did not get Dalton connected, they would have beaten Tennessee at home. And they did hit 14 threes in that game. This is a spot that I think after a big week for Alabama, they're getting told how good they are now.
Oh, boy.
They are all looking at everything. And the last time we did that to a certain team, they came out and just flopped. So, therefore, since you two cowards wouldn't do it, I am going to pick Georgia in this game.
I love it.
Because I think someone is getting an upset in this Wednesday night slate. And I'm also going to make sure that Alabama wins this game because we were not all going Alabama on the road as a ranked team at a Georgia team that is pretty good. So give me the Georgia Bulldogs here in the home game against Alabama.
I like that.
Let me explain to folks who are not familiar with our channel what just happened.
Yeah.
There's this phenomenon known as the Southeastern 14 kiss of death. And that is when all of us pick against a team. And it feels like, Max, does this happen? We need to tally up the records. Does this happen more at home when we all pick against a home team that the upsets are more likely to happen?
We always pick a team that's favored on the road against an underdog at home, and the home underdog always wins.
Well, we don't want to upset the basketball universe. We have fun watching these games. And we know that if we all three pick against Georgia, then it's decided. So what our man Blake did is he gave Alabama a chance by picking Georgia. So that's what's just happened.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly what just happened. Yeah.
Moving along. Boy, this may not be on the list of games you circle to watch, but I could make an argument that it could be entertaining.
I'm all in on this game, Chris. Don't hype it this way. I am all in on this game that you're about to put down.
Yeah,
Missouri
just give Blake
and Arkansas, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, SEC Network.
Ooh.
All in on this one.
Prime time.
Because there's a lot at stake.
Sit back and let you go for a minute.
There's a lot at stake here. I said this is the week that I need my client, Dennis Gates, to find a W somewhere, or else the Twitter trolls are going to come out in full strength here pretty soon. But in all seriousness, somebody's got to lose this game. Somebody's got to win this game. And I hate that we're having to angle this game that way because last year it was just completely different. But we all know the Must Bus has missed the exit. On fumes here. Missouri still searching for that first win, although they've been much more competitive at times than Arkansas has been in SEC play. And yeah, so I don't know who I'm going to pick yet, and I'm just going to turn it over to you, Max, because I'm a little flustered with this one. Like this is a tough one for me because I'm like, you got to weigh the pros and cons here, what the universe needs from me in this pick to try to get one team back on track, but we'll see what happens. So I'm curious where you're going.
Yeah. So there's a few different spots that I'm looking at, and it's also hard to break down though, because we don't really know what we're going to get out of Arkansas and who's playing. I'm not expecting Brazil. Last I heard, he wasn't that close to a return. So I'm not expecting him, and obviously no more Devo. The thing for Missouri in why I think it's a kind of a bad matchup for him is just the free throw line, the free throw rate. It's polar opposites. Arkansas lives at the line, gets most of their points at the line. And Missouri puts the most people on the line. They have the highest foul rate in the SEC. But then flip it, the Missouri offense, if you've been watching the Dennis Gates pressers, you've heard how annoyed he is with the free throws and how little his team gets to the line. They get to the line the least amount in the SEC, and Arkansas puts teams on the least amount. So complete opposite. Arkansas should, based on the numbers, have an advantage on the free throw line, but it is at Mizzou. So that kind of switches things. If it was at Bud Walton, I'd be like, Arkansas might shoot 20 more free throws. Nah, I don't know anymore. The other part that I'm looking at is I thought that was the best the Arkansas front court looked all season, especially Mekhi Mitchell. Jalen Graham looked good when he was out there. Chandler Lawson, they defensive rebound, man. They defensive rebound, and this is a Missouri offense that's dead last in the SEC in offensive rebounding. So there's another little angle I like for Arkansas. So right now, the two biggest angles that I'm seeing, I like in favor of Arkansas, but it's at Missouri in a desperation spot. So I also don't know where I'm going.
Well, maybe I'll make it easy on you guys. I'm the resident stats guy, and here's what the numbers say.
What do
Mark
you got?
Torvik has Missouri by 4.5. Ken Pomeroy has it by 3. That means Missouri's going to be somewhere between a 3.5 and 4-point favorite. Might be a little lower than that because Arkansas is a little bit more of a brand name, and we all remember the talent. But look, you mentioned the Brazil thing. A homecoming here for Missouri would add some intrigue to this game. I guess he's not going to play. Guys, I don't know that it matters because I watch these teams, and just one of them seems to be a lot more interested in playing basketball than the other. And neither of them are very good. Arkansas is a lot more talented. But Missouri, to its credit, some of these games got a little bit away from it at the end where it just sort of ran out of gas. But you have seen Missouri compete most nights. Arkansas has lost 6 SEC games. The only one that was within double digits was the ESPN game day against Kentucky in Fayetteville. The other 5 losses have all been by double figures or more. And Arkansas's one win was over Texas A&M, where Mark hits a shot with 2 seconds left for a 1-point win in Fayetteville. To me, it is forget the numbers, look at the motivation, and to me, I'm picking Missouri, and I'm not really having a lot of internal debate about it.
Blake, do you want to reserve your spot to go last, or are you jumping on this
course,
one?
please,
Okay, yep, that's what I thought. Gosh darn it. No, I know where I'm going. And I think the difference for me here is that Muss has come out. He just came out of his last press conference and his pregame press conference, said he still doesn't really know what he's going to for point guard. Still doesn't really know. Is still trying to figure it out. And you're going against one of the better backcourts here with Sean East, Tamar Bates. We've seen how good they've been. Even Nick Honor at home makes a few threes. So I'll give the point guard, the ball handling edge to Missouri. Plus at home, I think they can get away with maybe a few whistles there and put Arkansas on the line a little bit less than they normally would. I'll take Missouri at home.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness you guys made this so easy then. Arkansas is the pick. Move on to the next game. Oh,
you're not gonna, you have to give an analysis.
No, that's my analysis. Thank goodness you both picked Missouri, because if I'd had to pick Missouri too, we all know there's no chance of them winning. So Arkansas is the pick, and at least that leaves the door open for the Tigers to get their first win of this SEC season. So I have no analysis. I just am exhaling here at the fact that you two picked Missouri. Arkansas.
Max, you know what the most fun part of this is painting this man into a corner. I mean, it really is.
On Arkansas on this one. All in.
I can't wait for this game now.
What's the must bus going to look like before and after Wednesday night?
Well,
set the scene for us, Blake.
I don't know.
That's not a very good answer.
Yes,
I'm a little disappointed by that.
Again, Ed asked about the engine. I've been researching
mystery
the engines,
van,
and I can't really find one right now that fits the must bus. So may just have to be going without the engine. No, I'll give you my analysis real quick. I think that my pick has nothing to do with the analysis, everything to do with desperation. But I just look, I do think, like we said, Missouri's just been way more competitive, and you would think this is kind of a game where they get up knowing what's at stake here. Now, I don't want this to be a repeat of the last year's game in Columbia. Because for any of you who remember what last year's game in Columbia looked like, it was quite something. As Arkansas won that game 79-76, there were 56 fouls in the game. There were 66 free throws in the game. And I really hope it's not a repeat of that. But I don't think it will be. Because as you said, Max, Missouri's just not getting the free throw line enough to please Dennis Gates right now. And so you just don't know what you're going to get with Arkansas. Why say anything else at this point? And I know I picked him, but again, I'm doing that kind of in a fun way. But sure, Arkansas could win the game. Sure, Missouri could win the game. But I think the one difference I would say about Arkansas losing by double digits to all the teams that Chris mentioned, that came against all teams that were
Good.
pretty good. And I'm sorry, but Missouri just has not hit that tier yet this season. So I think that's the one thing where I would be stunned if this isn't a close game. And I still think Arkansas is the most, talent wise, there are probably some people who may still give the edge to Arkansas. But I also don't want to discount the fact that, again, Missouri has been right there in a lot of these games. And I still think Missouri's pretty talented. Even everything we say about not having potentially two of their best four players this season or whatever. But Sean East is pretty good. Like, Tamar Bates has been really good.
Yes.
We know what Noah Carter can do. We know what Nick Honor can do. So, again, I was kind of joking earlier. This is a pretty intriguing game because these are two teams who did not think by any means they would be where they are right now. And so I think the setup is fascinating, not because it's going to change their dynamic this season, but from a mindset and motivation standpoint, I'm really curious to see what we get from both of these teams, knowing what's at stake here, and that in and of itself, I think, makes this game interesting.
And I know we mentioned this on another video. I can't remember if we mentioned it on this video. Obviously, Arkansas fans know this, but if we didn't mention it, you weren't paying attention. Devontae Davis, their point guard, quit. He led them to a ton of success the last couple of years. Left the team. I mean, that's not a good sign. And so if you're kind of wondering some context for some of the things we're saying about Arkansas, we've been saying for a long time, hey, when there's a huge disconnect between your talent and your results, there's almost always some sort of internal problem, and that would seem to point to it. So, all right, we have saved the worst for last. And that is Vanderbilt's visit to Auburn. And I'm going to let Blake, because we know Vanderbilt's bad. We know Auburn is super talented. You've heard it. We were doing the Bart Torvik and Ken Pomeroy predictions just as show prep. We always like to do that to give you an idea what the line might be. I'm always pretty good at knowing about what something is. I was floored when I saw these numbers. Auburn's a 24-point favorite and a 22-point favorite, according to Bart Torvik and Ken Pomeroy. Now, I'm not saying I thought this was going to be single digits or anything, but when you're seeing SEC games with lines that are over 20 points, that's a little bit jarring, Blake.
All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do, Chris, because we had this discussion before we started recording. I want you to tell me why you think it will be within 22 points. And then I'm going to give you the one thing. No. I realize that, but if you're trying to, but give me a path. All right. If you're saying that you're surprised, then that's all I'm saying. Then I'm going to respond with something that I don't think you're thinking about.
Actually, that kind of is what I'm saying. Here's the thing. Vanderbilt is bad. And we have known it since the first month of the season. Vanderbilt lost to Presbyterian, which had lost, 19 or 20 in a row coming into the year. That just set the stage for everything. Vanderbilt has lost, 10 out of its last 11. In between, the only win was against just an awful Dartmouth team that's probably a bottom 25, 30 team in college basketball. And even that was not a runaway game. But here's the point I'm making. If Auburn's life is depending on it, and Auburn wanted to win this game by 35 points, could it? Of course it could. I think everybody knows Vanderbilt is bad. You're not seeing Vandy lose these games by 25 and 30 points. Other teams can go to the bench early. They don't have to put out max effort all the time, and they can walk away with a 13 or 14 point win, and that seems to be happening most nights. Auburn's already got a win in its back pocket in Nashville against Vanderbilt. It didn't have to break a sweat for the last 25 minutes to pull off. That game was close for a while. From what I remember, Auburn made a run to put it away. I just think that, yes, is Auburn that much better than Vanderbilt? Yes. Does it always play out in the score? No.
So here's what I would say. Vanderbilt has played 3 SEC road games. They scored 55 points against Mississippi State. They scored 56 points against Ole Miss. They scored 69 points against LSU. The last game, you said they lost 80-65 to Auburn in Nashville. That was 2 weeks ago. And Vanderbilt got to the free throw line 30 times in that game. They scored 21 of their points off of, free throws. I don't think they're getting to the free throw line 30 times in this game. And I also don't think we can discount, and why I'm not surprised at the number. I'm not saying either. I'm with you. I'm not saying Auburn's going to win this game by 40, but I'm not surprised at this. And I know the computers don't factor this in, but I would if I was doing my own computer formula. Auburn's coming off of 2 losses back to back, and they are pissed off. Or at least they should be pissed off because they've been told how bad they are, right? I gave you my promo. Like, The Rock made a surprise entrance in our power rankings this week and went full promo on why Auburn is not, they're okay. Like, they just lost 2 SEC road games. So I think, to me, knowing the kind of coach that Bruce Pearl is, I think they are going to get a pregame speech that could send them into another stratosphere here in terms of how they start this game. And then that's where Vanderbilt shoots 28.4% from 3. And Vanderbilt trying to play their way back into a game where I think Auburn's going to come out just on a mission here. So that's why I also, again, I know this isn't necessarily factoring in the computer aspect of it, but that's the one part of this game to me where if Auburn had won at Alabama or Mississippi State, and even if they just go 1-1, I think that's a little different than them coming out now. And whereas some people are going to think, well, they're struggling, they're in a bad spot. Even Vandy may beat them.
No,
I think it's going to be the other way around. I think they're going to come out on a mission, ready to get back to, business here. And I think that's something where I don't know if Vanderbilt can withstand that from a depth standpoint, from a, it's going to be tough. So.
Yeah, I'm having visions already that, because when you look at the schedule, Vandy probably has their most winnable game the rest of the season on Saturday at home against Mizzou. So I can see it already, because what we've seen with Vanderbilt and what they do to cover the spread is that happening against Auburn, happening at Mississippi State, happening against Tennessee. Teams will run way out to a huge lead and then kind of just stop really forcing the issue, and Vandy will make their way back into a cover. I could see Stack, they're down double digits and just kind of you see all the freshmen go in type of deal.
And I could see, sorry, not to interrupt you. I'm sorry, Max, but I can also see Auburn saying, you know what? We've played bad the last 2 games. I'm not saying there's any running up to score, but you better believe I don't think Bruce Pearl is just going to say, all right, we played 20 minutes, we're up 25. Let's just let, the other half play. I think he's going to be like, we got to get back into a rhythm here. And you combine those 2 together, what you just said with that's where a game can get out of hand.
Yeah. Like when we're looking for paths, looking for ways to get to different outcomes, I think that is like more likely than not, especially with they know that they're going to Ole Miss on Saturday. Auburn does. They know that everyone's been telling them all week they can't win on the road. No quad 1-1. They know they got to go on the road on Saturday. And Blake, you said how pissed off they are. I just think this is a bad spot for Vandy to catch Auburn. You're catching them probably the most pissed they're going to be all year. So, I'm Auburn. I don't know what you want me to do with the pick here. I'm going Auburn.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's going to happen, Auburn's going to be up 20 points with 10 minutes to play, something like that. I mean, maybe Auburn just comes out and puts the hammer down, and it's uglier than that from the jump. But I mean, this is what happens in games. Like, let's say there's 4 minutes to play and Auburn's up 20. Let's say the walk-ins go on, Vandy ends the game on a 10-0 run. It's a 10-point game.
Yeah.
Let's say it goes the other way. Bruce Pearl keeps his foot on the gas pedal. The 10-0 run goes in Auburn's favor. It's a 30-point game. It was really the same game all along, right? It's just how the finish happened, and that's the edge of the painting we've just spent 6 or 7 minutes debating because we all know it's not going to be a game.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're picking Auburn. Obviously, I'm going to pick Auburn too. So if we want to have the Southeastern 14 reverse mojo, this will be the ultimate event.
This will be the test.
we will trademark it if that happens after this game. But I will just offer the counterpoint to everything I said and everything we kind of talked about. Vanderbilt's 0-6 in the SEC. Every game's been decided by 15 or fewer points. And and they played 4 teams in the top 35 in KenPom of the 6. So, I mean, they found ways to make it interesting. And so I just think matchup wise and spot wise, this just feels just a bad setup for a struggling Vanderbilt team to go on the road and play an Auburn team that has not been in this spot before. And like I said, may have something to prove here.
Yeah. That wraps it up. We'll wrap it up when the games are over. We'll either do that Wednesday night or Thursday morning. Best way to get that, hit the subscribe button. That is free, by the way. It's like a follow. And hit the like button if you like this. We cover SEC football, baseball, and basketball in depth and have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you for watching this preview. We are Southeastern 14, presented by